Did you see that shit? MMA podcast. Hosted by mixed martial arts journalist Mike Strauss, aka Strauss21, and Chicago's number one underground comedian, Apollo Taj Mahal.
Hey, yo, Mike.
What's up, dude?
Man, was I wrong about Ortega?
You were?
Yeah. I said he was going to submit him.
Everybody thought he was going to submit Frankie.
Holy Francis uppercut.
Yeah, right. Full extension.
What is with these new wave of amazing uppercuts? We had Francis, then we had a nice Yoel uppercut when he was on the ground, and now we got Ortega.
Guys are getting better, man. Let's break down UFC 222. Let's start with the main card. Let's start with the Cyborg and Kunitsaya. Did it go pretty much how you expected?
We just fed another pretty blonde woman to the beast.
Yeah, well, we pretty much knew it was going to happen, right? First round, 3 minutes, 25 seconds in. And some people were making a deal about Kunitsaya, how she looked good early on with the jiu-jitsu. She looked like she was just surviving to me. She never looked like she was really putting her Cyborg in any danger.
Now, I think the funniest thing that I heard is everybody's now like, I now know how to beat Cyborg.
That's whatever, yeah. After the Holly Holm fight, after the Evinger fight.
We need to put her in a clinch and take her to the ground. I'm like, okay.
She is a black belt.
It's been 12 years. Pretty sure this hole has been seen by every female comic. I mean, every female fighter.
Or comic.
Actually, anybody has seen this hole, and yet no one's been able to institute this hole in a fight. Please explain to me how now, all of a sudden, we now figured out after 12 years. No, Cyborg's going to just keep collecting souls after soul after soul, and then keep complaining, my division isn't that good. No, it's because you're too darn good.
She doesn't have a division, though. So whether it's Megan Anderson, whether it's Nunes, who knows what's next for her. We know Kunitsaya is going to go back down where she belongs in weight. But, yeah, you mentioned at the top of the show, man, Ortega and Edgar. Man, who saw that coming? No one saw it.
I saw like
not that way.
Crazy submission maybe, but man, Ortega's a gangster.
You know, that's special. People are, of course, now the bandwagon is he could be the best ever in this division, but he still has to go through Max Holloway.
You know what's funny? I think he's really, really good, but I think we're a few years from his peak.
Definitely. He's a young cat still.
Now, I think he could take over the division.
So is Holloway.
Oh, yeah.
But listen, now all of a sudden, man, one of the most anticipated fights this year becomes Max Holloway and Brian Ortega, and that's Dana White says that's what we're going to get next.
226 is possibly.
We miss it here in Chicago by one major event. But I really feel for Frankie Edgar. I think this featherweight title is going to forever elude him.
Time to go get your bantamweight title.
Yeah, he probably could.
He might just do the Uriah Faber and just keep hopping divisions until he wins one.
Yeah, speaking of hopping and bantamweights, how about Sean O'Malley hopping on his foot there?
Oh my gosh. One thing. Why do you take someone down when they're on one leg?
This is what everybody is wondering. People are saying it was the lowest ever IQ for a fighter people have ever seen. All Sukmantoth had to do is back up. And the fight would have been stopped because O'Malley, he has since said, I would have just kept hopping. And correct, you would have. You wouldn't have given up because you're clearly a gangster. However, the referee would have been forced to stop it if you could not stand. So what the hell was he thinking?
I don't know, man. But I will say this. Last podcast, I did talk about Sean O'Malley, and I said, I don't believe the hype yet.
And I wasn't sold on him either. I actually picked Sukmantoth.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this, though. Sean O'Malley still has a lot of growing to do.
A ton of growing.
But the one thing he has that I think takes anybody anywhere, Derek Lewis is not a good mixed martial artist, but he has heart.
And personality.
Sean O'Malley has the personality.
And the heart.
And the heart of a tank, man.
He's a character. He trains at a very good camp. He's got it all.
I don't know if I don't think he's going to be a title holder yet. I don't know where he's going to be.
He's very far away from that.
Or see where he goes, but I can see him in the future being
very creative.
Yeah, being just a fun fighter to watch. Like, I'm excited to see where he goes.
The way that he flows from submission, his chain submissions to his striking, he is very entertaining to watch. Hopefully the UFC continues to book him in an appropriate manner,
Let's get that foot fixed, though. I heard it's not a broken foot, though, so that's good. He will be back sooner.
I think the suspensions just came out, and I think he's out to at least April 3rd, contingent on a couple other things. So, yeah, we'll see. And then how about Andrei Arlovski, Stefan Struve? This was pretty surprising.
I wish you guys could hear an eye roll.
This was surprising. This was one of the rare unanimous decisions of the night. We
Yeah.
had 5 split decisions, which ties the UFC record.
Holy
But
split decisions, Batman.
can you believe this, man? When is Stefan Struve gonna realize he's 7 foot? That's what everybody has been saying after this fight. He doesn't fight behind his jab. Why can't Struve put it all together? He did one night when he beat Stipe Miocic. Other than that, he really hasn't put it all together.
This is a cautionary tale for anybody. Manage your career at some point. Like, look at yourself and go, oh, I'm not ready for that guy. Because he's been knocked out a lot.
Yeah,
he's
he
been
did take
hit a
some
lot.
shots. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
That's a good
just
point.
say, man, if you right now can't beat Andre where Andre is, you're not a top 5 fighter.
Is Andre going to make another run? That's the talk
At
now.
the 225 division.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
we get that. I doubt it, though.
Yeah,
Ketlin Vieira, this was one of the split decisions we talked about. However, I don't think it should have been. I think Ketlin Vieira beat Kat Zingano pretty convincingly, and this didn't surprise me.
Got to
but
pour some out for my homies.
It did surprise a lot of people, though. And this is nothing against Kat Zingano. I just think Ketlin Vieira is on the upswing, and not
Just
that
a beast.
not that Kat is on the downswing, but maybe she's just kind of plateaued.
Maybe, man, I'm so rude. I don't really want to, you know what, pour some more out for my homies. I'm sorry, like, good for you, but Kat Zingano's my girl, and I'm so upset about this right now.
Well, they're definitely going to keep her around because she's one of the very best. So she'll
Yeah.
be back. She'll be back. On the undercard, man, Mackenzie Dern, Ashley Yoder. This was another split decision. Mackenzie Dern, all the hype around her. I thought she did pretty good. People got to remember she's only been doing this MMA thing for about 2 years.
Yeah.
She comes from jiu-jitsu. That's where she feels most comfortable. Her striking is still something of a work in progress, but
Gets the
she's
job
coming
done.
along. It didn't surprise me. I'm glad she got the nod.
Yeah, I watched the, like kind of skimmed it. It was, I don't know, very underwhelming.
And then Alexander Hernandez, this kid, man, he just bulldozed Beneil Dariush. First round TKO, 42 seconds. I said, watch out for this kid, Alexander Hernandez.
Holy
He is-
moly. What was that scorecard again?
First round TKO.
Oh, yeah.
42 seconds.
Dang,
no scorecards
42
needed.
seconds.
Yeah, he blitzed him, man. This Hernandez kid, he had a phenomenal post-fight interview, too, with Rogan.
Yeah.
He's got it all. This kid could be potentially one of those guys that, in a couple of years, really shakes things up. And then a guy that you really like, John Dotson, he got a split decision over Pedro Munoz in a fight that was really supposed to happen last month. CB Dalloway, Hector Lombard, there was some
Holy Hector
questionable
Lombard.
So you feel this was egregious? You feel
No.
that it was the right decision?
Okay, so Dana White made a comment saying that you clearly see the ref say stop. I get kicked in the body. I throw the punches. The ref is not in a position where Hector Lombard can see him and say stop. Then Chael Sonnen made a start talking about
Can
it.
I say something real quick? Because when the ref says stop, that doesn't stop the contest. The referee has to physically touch you, break it
Correct.
up.
You have to physically stop the contest as a ref. Just because you hear a bell.
And you mentioned Chael Sonnen, and he did a fantastic job at really breaking down the origin of how that rule.
Yeah.
Protect yourself at all times, how that rule came into existence. And I urge people to check that out.
Yeah, so you can really understand it. I think that fight should not have been a DQ.
No,
That
probably
was
a no contest.
no contest of anything.
Yeah, I definitely think that would have been the correct ruling, too.
Or just get back in there. Come on.
Yeah, and then we get to the portion of the fight card that we really had a lot of interest in. 3 guys we had a chance to speak with were fighting Zach Otto, fighting Mike Pyle, and what would be Mike Pyle's last fight. Zach Otto wasted no time. He TKO'd Mike Pyle 2 minutes, 24 seconds in the very first round. I thought Zach looked really good, and Mike Pyle he's retiring. So what does it matter, right?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does, man.
And then Cody Stamann, Brian Caraway. This was a very close split decision. A lot of people don't think Cody Stamann deserved the victory here. I think he did do enough. Maybe I'm biased.
I thought it was a draw.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I thought it was a draw. If anything, I could give it to Cody as edging it out. I watched that one, and I was like, yeah, that's a draw in my opinion. I can't give a winner in that one.
And then how about Jordan Johnson and your spirit animal, Adam Milstead? Split decision for Jordan Johnson. Big swinging.
Yeah. That was an interesting fight.
It was boring. Afterwards, Jordan Johnson, as always, very critical of himself. You know, he doesn't know what his issue is. He doesn't know why he just can't get his best performance out in the UFC. He's perfect in the UFC thus far, but he's just super hypercritical of himself.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is, man. At least you got the win. Winning's winning.
It sure is.
If you come from a wrestling world, we don't care how we win. We won.
And if you haven't figured it out yet, you are listening to the Did You See That Shit Mixed Martial Arts podcast. I am Mike Strauss, a.k.a. Strauss21.
And I am the number 2 underground comic. I gave the title number 1 to my dog for the day. Apollo Taj Mahal. What's up, guys? Yeah.
We appreciate all the love, guys. Give us a call on the hotline. Let us know what we're doing good, bad, ugly. Let us know what we should change. Let us know what we should keep doing. Let us know something. 708-6694-777. Or give us an email if you want to be on the show. Mike@didyousee.shit.com. What is that? You want to listen to the podcast?
Oh, my gosh. Well, you got many options.
You sure do. You can go to our website, www.didyousee.shit.com. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play.
Number 5 on iTunes.
YouTube. We're on pretty much any platform that you choose to listen to your favorite podcast on, guys.
We are the number 1 growing, fastest growing show out there. You ain't on us. You don't know us. You know who's already hopped on the hype train? Our very favorite, Leaks Pro Audio.
For sure. Check them out, guys. LeaksPro.com, LYXPRO.com. They are a nifty little pro audio company. They have everything you need, whether it is headphones,
mics,
soundproofing gear,
cords,
pretty much anything you need to start a home podcasting studio, or if you're a professional or you're just a audiophile like ourselves. So check them out, guys. LeaksPro, LYXPRO.com. They're way more than just a headphone company.
Yeah, but their headphones are fire.
UFC 3. This is going to be the last time we talk about it for a little bit. It is a fun video game. We're actually going to put out some good content here coming real soon.
You don't only want to talk about it because I leg kick the daylights out of you.
Well, that you have. You know, in the world of mixed martial arts, we get a chance to speak with a lot of guys, and a lot of guys play video games. One of the guys we had a chance to speak with, Charles Rosa, he is a big video gamer, and, well, he just point blank says anybody on the PlayStation Network that wants to get those hands can get them at Charles Rosa 16 on the PlayStation Network.
Boy, you about to get these hands and leg kicks.
And here's our conversation with Charles Rosa. Right now, I want to welcome Charles Boston Strong Rosa to the show. He's a featherweight in the UFC. We haven't seen him since last April, but he's got to be chomping at the bit to get back in there. What's going on, Charles?
Yeah, not much. You know, I was supposed to fight in Japan, UFC in Japan, and I was supposed to fight Mizuto Hirota, but obviously, whoever saw, you know, he had the weight issues. I agreed to fight him. He's 5 pounds overweight, anyways, and yeah, luckily the UFC took care of me and, you know, paid me the win and the show money, you know, for flying me and my whole family out to Japan. So everything got taken care of. Really, but you know, I don't just do it for the money. I was really upset I didn't fight. I mean, I came to Japan to fight, and I'm a fighter, so I wanted it. But you know, after that, unfortunately, they were gonna give me a quick turnaround. But you know, I was having some like muscle atrophy problems in my upper body and stuff like that. And you know, it turned out I had some neck issues that I had to get taken care of. So it looks like I'm gonna be out for a couple more months. But after that, I should be able to get back in there.
And then you were scheduled to fight Ige too, right?
Yeah, so I had to pull out of my fight. I was supposed to fight Danny Ige in Boston for the 3rd time. You know, I won my first 2 fights at Boston at the Garden, you know, and this was going to be my 3rd, man. I was so friggin' pumped for the fight, but I had to pull out of the fight with an injury 3 weeks before the fight. It was the first time in my life I ever pulled out of a fight with any injury. The doctor was the one who told me that I couldn't do it. The UFC doctors, they said I couldn't fight. After getting my neck checked out, and man, it really sucked. But you know, I feel like everything happens for a reason. So you know, I'm going through the therapy stuff now. Fly to New York tomorrow to get clearance from the doctor to get back in there. So hopefully get the news I want.
Yeah, you did the right thing, man. I mean, you're still a young guy. There's no point to risk your health. You know, I don't see the point in that. Man, I saw on your social media that you're stoked that you're in the new UFC 3 game and you were actually playing it. You put out there, I am Boston Strong. Anybody, basically put out an open invitation for anybody to come and get some, huh?
Yeah, hell yeah. Actually, I just changed. The PSN username that I have is Charles Rosa 16. So anybody that wants to challenge me online, that's kind of something that kept me a little bit sane. I'm a new character in the UFC EA Sports 3 video game. It just came out February 2nd, so that was really good news. You know, after getting the bad news about my fight and the injury, I was kind of like, sitting in my house, and I was a little bit, for 2 months, I really couldn't do much. I, like only basically like really light workouts and stuff like that. So it kind of kept me sane and kept me, training mentally. So I'm a really competitive guy. So it was one of those things that even though I couldn't fight, I could still, beat people up online. So anybody that wants some, you can get it.
I might have to take you up on that too, man. That's a fantastic game. UFC 3 is done really well, man. It's very fun.
Yeah, believe it or not, I actually learned stuff from it. Like I did the whole career mode this season. Like I was learning stuff that surprisingly you see stuff and you can pick up on stuff. So it's almost like in a weird, interesting way, it's like training for me, even though I'm not in there. I mean, it's a pretty legit game.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. You had a really good seat for last weekend's fights, huh? UFC Fox in Orlando.
Yeah, I was just there. I was sitting with my coach Mikey Brown, and I brought my girl and his girl came. We got to sit basically front row with the fights. Man, there was some pretty amazing fights. I came up fighting in Florida with Tisha Torres. Unfortunately, she didn't get the win, but I was definitely there to support her. She was someone that I fought 20 amateur fights in Florida, and she was at most of them, fighting on the same cards as me. So we came up together. So I was looking forward to seeing her. But that main event was fireworks for sure.
Oh, yeah, that was actually a really good card all the way through. I actually picked Tisha to win that fight. She looked really good early on. Andrade, it's not even fair that she can fight at 115. How does she make weight? I don't understand how she makes weight.
Yeah. I mean, she's a beast for the girls. She's, I saw her. I think she fought in Japan when I was supposed to fight, and I was impressed with her. They got fight of the night. It was one of the best girl fights I ever saw in my life. Super impressive, and she's. I knew she'd be tough, but I was just hoping Tisha could pull it off. But it's part of the game. You win some, you lose some. But it was definitely a good fight, and I had a blast in Orlando. It was actually a great event. I don't know how the turnout was. Like I know they didn't sell out, but it was definitely some fun fights.
All the way from the early prelims all the way to, as you said, the main event. I saw that you did a radio interview not too long ago with Trans Media Group. It was about how you got into like mixed martial arts, your journey to the UFC basically. And I really dug that, man. Do you have your own podcast, or are you going to be doing something like that in the future?
Yeah, I actually do. Especially since this is the first time my whole career I had a month or two to sit back and not train. I'm usually training every day, and I'm doing interviews and some upcoming fights. But definitely, man, I've always been open to doing podcasts and stuff. I mean, I got a pretty cool story of how I got into fighting and my whole life story and stuff like that. So I always like hearing other fighter stories too, because most people don't realize, but every fighter that gets it's fighting has something. It's very rare you find a fighter that doesn't have an amazing story. That's what makes fighters great and separates them from other sports and other athletes. Is there's something that drives them. And for me, my case was losing my two older brothers to drug overdoses when I was 16 years old, and then just kind of growing up the way I did, and how I even got into mixed martial arts. So I got a pretty cool story with that too. And I didn't start training fighting until I was 23 years old. I played hockey my whole life, and the fact that I was able to start something brand new at 23 years old and make it to the highest level from something that I didn't do before is pretty cool. But definitely, man, I'm always open to doing those type of podcasts. I always thought about, maybe doing it since I got some downtime. But right now, my eye is still on the prize. I'm still signed with the UFC, and, I still have my eyes on my goal. My ultimate goal is to be the champ. And, I had some tough breaks with my losses. All three of my losses in the UFC are fight of the night bonuses, and, all of them are in other countries or foreign territory. I mean, I still consider New York a foreign country for me because a Boston guy going to New York, all the fights I lost were just split decisions or, stuff like that, and fight of the night bonus. So every one of those fights were razor thin, and all those guys have been ranked top 10 at some point in their career. So I know I'm right there. I'm only 1 or 2 wins away from a huge, big fight, and I'm always pushing, man. So, I'm just looking to get back healthy, get back to doing what I love now.
Oh, yeah. I'm just throwing it out there, man, but Shane Burgos and you run that back. I think that'd be a really good fight.
For sure, man. I won the first 2 rounds of that. I was in New York, his home place. I won the first 2 rounds. I got the judges' scorecards after the fight. I was up 2 rounds to none. 3rd rounds, he caught me with a big shot. I got back up on my feet. He came at me. I was still on my feet, and the ref jumped in out of nowhere. It was really, really, I was unbelievably upset. I mean, I've never had that happen in my career. I've seen it happen to other people where the guy's still fighting, and the major ref just jumps in. And, I still have some conspiracy in my head, like, oh, it's a New York commission that, screwed me. But, it really, you know, it's one I want back. I don't feel like I was defeated in that fight, and on my record it says, you know, TKO loss, but I mean, I mean, for me, it's like I don't feel like I was TKO'd. I'm sitting on my feet, swinging back, fighting, and they jump in. You know, it's part of the game. There's nothing I could do. I mean, I can't stop the ref, and but that's definitely a fight I would like to run back, and you know, to get back in there. I just feel like if the guys, you know, to the end of the fight, I was still standing, and they stopped it. It's just for me, it's a tough pill to swallow, but hopefully I can get it back one day.
It's hard to TKO a guy that's standing, right? I mean, it just doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, that's my point. Is I don't know. You know, and, I said this, you can look back at the video in the fight. I mean, he definitely hit me with a good shot, went down, but I did a back roll right to my feet, got up. He hit me with some more shots, and I swing back. You know, and he did a good job. It's not his fault. You know, I mean, that's his job, is to keep fighting. But right when the ref stopped the fight, I jumped in. I said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm winning the fight." Like, I was completely coherent and clear. And I think he knew he made a mistake. He looked at me like, "Oh shit!" Like,
who was the ref in that?
I don't even want to remember his name. He's an idiot. But I forget his name. But I mean, I could look. But
yeah, no worries.
I think it was Tom or something like that. But he was from the New York Commission, and I just, you know, I'm a Boston guy. My nickname is Boston Strong, and I don't think the rivalry is that big of a deal. But you know how it is. When I come up fighting in Florida, I know all the Florida Commission guys. I know they're on my, like, they're at the fights. They know who I am. Like, you know, maybe they're just trying to, you know, he came up fighting in New York. You never know how it is. You just might, you know, he might know the guy. But like I said, I'm not a big conspiracy guy, but I didn't like how that fight was stopped, and I'm really upset with it. Still, this is my first. I've never been finished in my whole career, and on paper it says I have, but I don't feel like I have. You know, like I said, man, all I can do is get back in there and keep swinging and keep. You know, that's what a fighter does. He gets knocked back, he gets back up, and that's what I am. So I'm gonna continue to do that.
Well, I know you will, man. I can't wait for you to get back in there. And for anybody listening who thinks that kind of stuff doesn't happen, that very much does happen. People play favorites all the time. So, hey, it's a very real possibility, man. I want to thank you for your time, man. I know that you're busy. Real quick, we kind of have a tradition here. If you could you say, this is Charles Rosa, and you're listening to the Did You See That Shit podcast?
Yeah, this is Charles Rosa. You're listening to Did You See That Shit podcast.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yep, no problem, man. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so come get some, I guess, huh?
I'm going to leg kick the daylights out of him.
How about that, man? He was having atrophy. That is crazy.
I was so scared.
I'm glad that he's doing much better. And again, thanks for your time, Charles. I know you're a busy dude. I hope the UFC books you and you get back in there in no time.
Yeah, man.
How about Luke Rockhold, man? He is now the new model for Ralph Lauren's cologne.
Sounds like something a douche would do.
Ooh, you said it. You said it.
I don't, man. Listen, he's a great fighter. He's just.
He is.
He's a straight. He reminds me of every like douchebag in high school. They got the hot girl, but then got herpes.
I didn't say it. You said it. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but yeah.
Damn, he left you for a Bellator fighter.
Ooh. So speaking of some beef, how about Mark Henry? Now, I'm not talking about Mark Henry, MMA Mark Henry. I'm talking about professional wrestler and strongman.
They're both on roids.
Well, I don't know. So Mark Henry has a beef with Joe Rogan. On one of Joe Rogan's podcasts a while ago, he was talking with, I think, Brendan Schaub. He was talking about professional wrestling, about how Jimmy Snuka would jump off the top rope. And Rogan said it in a way that, you know, when I was a kid, I remember Jimmy Snuka jumping off the ropes.
Like he was like admiring
ridiculous.
him.
Yeah, it was like reminiscing. And I don't think he said it in a derogatory way, but, you know, Mark Henry, he took it in a very personal way. Here's Mark Henry's comments about the way he feels about what Rogan said.
Joe Rogan
basically started with this caution to overly sensitive fans that whenever you give a disclaimer, you basically saying, okay, get ready. Here comes the trouble. And, you know, the biggest part of this whole thing is Joe Rogan is a announcer. Mm-hmm. You have to know your role. Like, our announcers wouldn't dare say anything about a talent. And I think that UFC may need to kind of tell him, look, man, you're bringing heat on us because our fans are UFC fans, and there are a lot of UFC fans that are wrestling fans. And you're disrespecting the fan base. That's the number one thing. The second thing is he used the word ridiculous as regards to Jimmy Superfly Snuka's splash, which Jimmy is not here with us no more. And I took that really to heart as being ultra disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you there's a lot of fans of wrestling that will look at him differently after seeing what he said and all of the negativity that came behind. And he's a comedian. He might put it on the fact, oh, I'm a comedian. I was trying to be funny. Well, you're not a good comedian because it wasn't funny.
Man, he LeVar Balled him. Stay in your lane, Rogan.
He kind of did, and that audio is courtesy of Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM Rush.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, what do you think of that?
You know what? I'm going to be 100% honest.
77%, please.
Oh, okay. Mark Henry, the other Mark Henry, get out your feelings. Get out of them. Listen, wrestling is fake, and sometimes it's ridiculous. Like, you buried a guy alive several times, and he keeps coming back.
So fake is a harsh word. I think it's definitely choreographed, right? Those guys are
real athletes.
Those guys are 100% athletes. It is fake to the point where it's choreographed. And there's 2 points I want to make. I don't think Rogan said it in a disrespectful way. One. And two, everything is ridiculous at one point. I'm a mixed martial arts journalist, and guess what? There is very much about mixed martial arts that is ridiculous.
The very fact of Conor McGregor.
But exactly, doing the Burger King commercial now. So don't get your butt hurt. You know, have you seen the new Burger King commercial that he did? You have to see it. It just came out today.
Stay out your feelings. That's all I got to say, man.
And it was classic because Holloway put out a tweet that said something to the effect of, I thought you would get the McStrip meal or something. It was something very clever. So if Max Holloway runs his own social media, he is a clever dude.
Clever boy.
So Bellator news, man. Bellator 200 in London. They get another fight added. Roy Nelson, Mirko Cro Cop 2. What is your initial feeling on this?
Amazing fight in 2010.
So you are not excited about this at all? See, I kind of am, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no USADA. And we know Roy Nelson is a clean fighter. He's not going to test dirty. But Mirko, guess what? Maybe we get to see the old Pride Mirko for a night in London.
Didn't Mirko leave the UFC, then go to Ryzen and win a tournament?
I believe so. So
we might get some.
This is why I'm excited, because we could see, left kick hospital, right kick morgue. We could get that Mirko. So I'm excited for that. How about John Fitch already getting a fight against Paul Daly at Bellator 199 in San Jose?
What is with everybody who keeps coming over getting Paul Daly?
Good test, I guess.
Roy McDonald and now John Fitch.
What do you think of that fight?
John Fitch watched the video of Roy McDonald and just do the same thing.
Well, that's essentially how John Fitch fights.
Exactly.
On the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, John Fitch was saying, I'm a terrible matchup for anybody, which he is.
That's true, he is. He was one of the first guys that really put everything together.
Mm-hmm, really. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very fun fight to watch. Also, Rafael Lovato Jr. tweeted out, he is in fight camp now. He already has a fight signed. He can't say who yet. Hopefully Bellator puts it out very soon, but that fight will be in Chicago. So I'm very stoked about that. He will be on the show very soon once Bellator announces an opponent. One of his former opponents is fighting this weekend. He got kind of lost in that shuffle with 13 guys that they released. They threw his name in there, but technically he wasn't a part of that. He'll explain it. Here's our conversation with Mike Rhodes. I want to welcome Mike Biggie Rhodes to the show. He is a professional fighter, and he has a big fight coming up against Brian Baker at Beatdown 21. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just getting ready to go train and, keep the schedule going. Like you said, got a big fight, so just trying to stay on the train for that.
Yeah, Brian Baker, he's a real tough guy, but we haven't seen him in 5 years now. He was a finalist in the Bellator tournament way back. What are you expecting from this dude?
You know what? I'm expecting someone who's improved. I think that whenever you take time off away from the sport, you're actually able to get, better. And I think people might hear that and think that sounds a little bit weird, but your body needs a break, your mind needs a break, and when you come back to it, I feel like you can get better. It kind of helps to get away from things, and you see things differently when you come back. And like I said, I don't know what he's been doing. So that's kind of keeping it fresh for him as well. As far as fighting and training, no one has a blueprint on whether or not he's going to be the same or if he's going to be a new improved fighter. So he has an element of surprise on his side as well. So I'm expecting the best Brian Baker. I'm expecting an improved Brian Baker from, the Bellator tournament guy. But even if it's not the case, he was tough. He was tough then, 18-5 tournament finalist a couple times. So even if he didn't improve very much, if he stayed anywhere near the same, he's going to be a tough fight.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the best guys back then in Bellator that they had, man. Speaking of surprise, were you surprised when Bellator got rid of the 13 guys? Of course, you were one of them. I don't think they got that right, man. There's you, Steve Cazzola, Steve Garcia. There's a handful of guys there that the MMA world by surprise, man. Were you just as surprised as we were?
No, and so I explained the situation a little bit, but I don't want to go into grave detail about everything that happened with it, but I think my name got thrown in there. It was unjustly because I wasn't cut or anything from Bellator. My deal with them was a 1-fight deal.
Okay.
So my deal with Bellator was a 1-fight deal. And it was a 1-fight deal that had contingencies in it that if I won, then I would be offered a certain amount of fights, or that, if I won, that they would still, kind of have control of me as far as me fighting for them again. But, obviously since I lost, they didn't, use that side of the contract and decide to, keep me under contract, if that's what you want to say. So with me losing, it kind of, they just decided that they didn't want to, give me more fights was the thing. So I know some of those other people have been with Bellator for a while and things like that. So they might be a little bit more disappointed than I am. Would I have liked to get another opportunity for Bellator? Sure, why not? Good money, fighting tough guys. I just get to try and prove myself again. But this is not a setback for me in any way, shape, or form. This for me is kind of is good. I can get a little bit more active on the local scene. I can fight more guys, and I think everybody knows UFC is number one. Bellator is close number two for some people and athletes, but I feel in order to be a great Bellator fighter, you got to be in one of the areas that they frequently go to a lot. Mm-hmm. And you can tell those are the guys that they build up more than anybody else. I mean, if you're from somewhere that they don't go to put on shows, it's kind of hard for them to grow you. And I think that's the reason why they keep so many of the old names that they've had for a long time, is because these guys have created fan bases in the places that they go if they're not from there. So I think Bellator is having a little problem with, building stars and building fighters because of, the lack of places that they go, so that kind of keeps their roster a lot smaller. So I'm not sad or mad or, feel any certain way about it. It wasn't personal for me. Obviously, it's a business decision, and my business just keeps on rolling.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, there's no reason to feel bad. You're only 28 years old. You train at one of the best camps in the world, and I think your best days are ahead of you, man. I think you are probably one of the handful of guys on the regional scene that could really draw. I mean, you and Brian Baker, that is a legit fight.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, if you look at it, for what it is, man, it's gonna be a good fight. Like you said, we both have names, plus some of the other names on this card is kind of crazy to think, that they were able to put this together like they did. I don't know if there's a streaming thing for it or not, but I would hope so, with the names and the people that they have on this card. I know a lot of people want to see it, and, I want to be able to showcase my performance, against a tough guy like Brian Baker. I haven't heard if they're going to stream it in any way, but I'm really, really hoping that they do.
Yeah, they definitely should, because as you said, man, there's a lot of names on that card. For a regional event, it really is. They put on a very, very respectable card there at Beatdown 21. So before I let you go, man, I've been seeing that you've been posting a lot of pictures with Paul Felder. Have you been getting a lot of work in with Paul?
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to Paul right now. He had to go run out and do some stuff for the UFC today. So I was just talking to him a little bit, and yeah, man, we train a lot. I really, really enjoy Paul Felder. The guy's just a genuine dude, and ever since he came up here and teamed up with Roufusport, I feel like we've been really close, really good friends. And so, we just kind of have the same mindset, man. And, you know, when you find someone who's like you know, you're kind of just drawn to that person. And he's my kind of guy, man. He trains hard. He don't complain. He likes to fight, and you know, and like you said, you see him fight, and you can tell he likes to fight by the way he goes in there and puts it all on the line. And honestly, he's just been like a huge, you know, like just watching him fight and knowing him and seeing how he thinks has helped me out a lot, because it helped me turn this corner. And I think people already think I'm an exciting fighter from the way that I fight already. But
definitely,
come March 10th, I think they're going to see a whole nother level of excitement and fight for me. You know, one of the things you hear Paul Felder commended about the most is just, you know, the willingness to go in there and just actually go to war. You know, and you know, the fans love it. That's why the UFC loves him, and that's the reason why he got the opportunities that he's got. You know, obviously he wins the fights, but in the manner that he wins and fights is important too. And I'm starting to understand that. And so I just can't wait to showcase, you know, what I've learned from him, you know, as well as what, you know, I've shared with him. So it's a very mutual relationship. And like I said, he's a little bit older than me, not much, but he's got some experience and some things that he can, you know, just help out and share with some of us younger guys and guys that are newer in the sport. And, you know, I just happen to have a little bit more of an extensive background. Like, I've made it to some places, but I didn't accomplish my goals. And just seeing how, you know, Paul was, you know, had some ups and downs in the UFC, and now he's, you know, he's streaking. He's going on a run right now. Training with him just kind of boosts my morale, and just kind of, you know, it just reminds me every day with my roommate, Gerald Marshard, that, you know, where I want to get back to and where I want to be and what I'm really capable of.
Absolutely, man. I say it all the time. Steel sharpens steel, right?
Exactly, man. And we got a team full of guys that can, you know, definitely do that for one another, pull one another up, and continue to help us get better. You know, that's the thing about our team. We're not a big team, but we're actually a real team. You know, we love and care about one another, and I think that shows in how we all get better. And, you know, we had a great year last year as a team. We went 19-5, and, you know, it's just like this year. We just want to get better and finish fights and just be exciting and, you know, have people interested in when Roufusport fight. You know, we already got that name, but we just got to continue to go out there and get the big wins and keep our spot at the top.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate your time, Mike. I know that you're busy training and everything that you have going on there. The floor is yours, man. If you'd like to, if you have any sponsors or if you want to plug your social media, whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, thank you for all the supporters that have been following my career, you know, through the ups and the downs, supporting me. If you're new a fan out there, you know, I welcome you to the bandwagon with open arms. You know, it's about to take off and it's going in the right direction. You can catch my social media at Team Rock Biggie, TeamRock Biggie. That's Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. Mike Biggie Rhodes fan page over on Facebook. BiggieMMA.com is my website. I always rep all my sponsors over there on all my social media. I don't want to say a couple and not remember them all right now. So I'll just say, you know, shout out to my gym, Roufusport, all my coaches, Scott Cushman, Duke Rufus, Daniel Vanderlei, all my teammates over there at Roufusport. We got a couple guys fighting this weekend. We got Cam Olsen fighting up in Canada for a belt. Good skill to him. We got a couple guys, Nate Jennerman, Jordan Griffin, and a couple amateurs fighting up on that LFA card in Minnesota. So just wishing them good skill. And, you know, I just want to say thank you to all my loved ones and family and fans and supporters out there. Continue to support me. I appreciate it, and look for me on the big show soon.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time, Mike. If you could, man, we kind of have a little tradition here. If you could say, this is Mike Biggie Rhodes, and you're listening to the Did You See That Shit podcast.
Hey, guys, this is Mike Biggie Rhodes, and you're listening to Did You See That Shit podcast.
I appreciate it so much, brother. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right, so there you go.
I didn't know that. So they just threw
a lot of people in it.
I wonder if they just threw his name in there, like, make this look bigger.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess it was just convenient for him.
Whereas legit as everybody else throw his name in there, even though that's not what happened.
So before we wrap this up, man, let's get to Bellator 195 from this last weekend. You know, the prelims were pretty boring, but I do want to mention one thing. Everybody knows about the Fernando Gonzalez that they released, but they also have a gentleman on the roster named Fernando Gonzalez Trevino. He is a lesser-known fighter with the same name, trains at AKA, and is very good, and he won on the 195 prelims. He's been on one of my shows before. I reached out to him, and he will be on the show coming up here. He is a very talented cat, and he was the only bright spot to me in their prelims, so that's why I bring that up. So let's get right to the main card. Juan Archuleta destroyed William Joplin. He had the first ever 30-23 scorecard in Bellator history.
At what point do we just tech people? Like in wrestling, there's techs. Like if you get 15 points above the opponent, they stop the match. It's done. It's
like
over.
A slaughter rule.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, like,
how do you do that though?
It's gonna rarely happen. But this was such a beatdown that, like, he wasn't knocking him out. He wasn't submitting him. So at that point, why do we subject this man to this much of an ass whooping?
Well, I have a couple issues with that, I guess, right? One is William Joplin, the guy that Archuleta fought, was a last-minute replacement. So hats off to dude for even taking the fight against Juan Archuleta.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he was totally outclassed. Juan Archuleta, I believe, is a top 20 guy in the world. William Joplin is probably not in the top 100.
No.
So it's a mismatch, right? But the thing is, Joplin was always fighting back enough to where they couldn't stop the fight. So, I see what you're saying, but it's just such a delicate thing because my issue is I'm a purist because once we give a little bit, I'm afraid they're going to want everything and it's going to ruin the sport.
True.
Kind of similar to the gun fanatics. The gun fanatics don't want to bend at all because they're afraid if they bend a little bit, then that little bit is going to lead to total gun control everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel with rules here. I feel like if we mess this up, I think if we open it a little bit, I think it could lead to disaster. So I see what you're saying, but I don't know how to fix it. Nevertheless, man, Archuleta looks like he could really be some problems for any featherweight right away in Bellator.
I think he's one of the biggest problems now. He scares the daylights out of me. I had a nightmare about him. I was like, 30-26.
But Emily Ducote and Christina Williams. So check this out, man. Christina Williams is now 2-0 in Bellator, right? 2-0 professionally, 2-0 in Bellator. She just beat Emily Ducote, and she also has a win over Heather Hardy. Not too shabby. She is very talented.
Yeah, I got to get more tape on her, but she definitely looks like a very good fighter.
I think that they're going to push her too in that division. That would be smart. And then Warren. Joe Warren loses a split decision to baby Joe Timanglio. You were saying before we started, man, you think Joe Warren's best days are just gone.
Man, his body looks different. He looks old.
But they're gone.
Yeah. So I saw him at weigh-ins, and he kind of looked like a 40-year-old dad in good shape.
Yeah, that's exactly what he looks like. Except I think he's older than 40. He's like 48.
Come on, man. Just Joe Warren, you're awesome. Just stop.
Yeah, I definitely think his best days are behind him. I never really thought he was that good to begin with. Don't get me wrong. I think his wrestling was always high level. I just never thought he was that good of a complete mixed martial arts to begin with. So I think, he should just step aside and let the younger guys come up, man. Darian Caldwell's first title defense, he choked out Leandro Higo. This was impressive, man. I didn't see this coming so quick. Did you?
No, I honestly didn't.
Is Caldwell that good?
I'm still on that. The division isn't really built up yet. It's very young and it needs a little work.
Caldwell's an interesting cat, man. He trains with Dominic Cruz and all those guys, so he's legit, right? Interesting enough. Did you see the choke that he caught Leandro Higo with?
No.
It was a very interesting choke. It was a variation of like a guillotine, but do you know who taught him that choke?
Who?